The history of Brazilian Carnival, from ancient origins to modern spectacle. Did you know that Carnival, this celebration that today is synonymous with joy, colorful costumes, and plenty of samba dancing, was once, believe it or not, a mess of water buckets, food fights, and even flower baths in the middle of the street? That's right. Before becoming a lavish parade with giant floats and celebrities on television, Carnival was more like an organized mess than the spectacle we know today. And the curious thing is that it wasn't even born in Brazil. Carnival has deep roots, mixed with religion, ancient rituals, and even social rebellion. The celebration, which today parades the entire country and attracts millions, began as a farewell to the flesh, literally, and has crossed centuries, seas, and cultures to become this true Brazilian cultural phenomenon. But what happened along the way? How did a medieval European tradition become the greatest popular spectacle on the planet? And why is Brazilian Carnival so unique, so creative, so Brazilian? Hold on tight, because in today's video, we're going to take a trip back in time with plenty of rhythm, curiosity, and good humor to understand how it all began and how Carnival went from being just a party to becoming a national heritage, a cultural identity, and a collective passion. Long before samba. Have you ever wondered how a vibrant celebration like Carnival, full of color, music, dance, and costumes, could have originated from ancient tribal rituals? Well, what today seems like just a huge popular festival actually has roots that stretch deep into human history, long before samba, parades, and even the idea of Brazil. Join us to explore the fascinating journey of Brazilian Carnival, from its humble, mysterious, and even spiritual origins to its transformation into the cultural spectacle that enchants the entire world. Long before the word carnival existed, ancient peoples celebrated the changing of the seasons, the fertility of the land, and the victory of life over death. In ancient Egypt, for example, festivals honoring the goddess Isis combined music, masks, and dance in processions that closely resemble modern-day street parties. As early as Mesopotamia, some 4,000 years ago, New Year's celebrations lasted entire days, and during them, social hierarchies were temporarily inverted. A servant could dress as a king, and a king as a court jester. These festivities also took place in Greece and Rome, where gods like Dionysus and Bacchus, the patrons of wine, ecstasy, and joy, were celebrated with parades, music, costumes, and of course, plenty of drinking. The Romans had the so-called Saturnalia, where social rules were suspended for a few days and people let loose everything they couldn't during the rest of the year. These pagan rituals weren't just party for party's sake. They had a deeper meaning, celebrating the cycles of life, nature, and society. It was as if the people were saying, okay, life is hard, but now we're going to laugh, dance, and forget the rules, even if just for 3 days. And that's where the church comes in. When Christianity began to spread across Europe, it didn't do away with these pagan festivals. Quite the opposite. It incorporated some of them and adapted others. This is how Carnival was born, from the Latin carne vale, meaning farewell to meat. A celebration that marked the last moment of pleasure, food, and joy before the severe Lent, the 40 days of fasting and penance before Easter. But be careful, the medieval European carnival didn't have a float or dancers, but it did have flour, eggs, wine, and plenty of mayhem. It was the famous intrudo, and tradition held that almost anything went. Throwing water on others, painting faces, satirizing the powerful, and even rolling in the mud, all in the name of freedom before abstinence. This European proto-carnival was the one that ended up arriving in Brazil,
centuries later. And then, well, here, it gained a new life. But before we talk about the Brazilian way of celebrating, remember this. Carnival has always been more than just a revelry. It has been humanity's escape valve since the beginning of time. A mixture of celebration, ritual, rebellion, and celebration of life.
Carnival arrives in Brazil. When the Portuguese landed in Brazil in the 16th century, in addition to caravels, crosses, and swords, they also brought their traditions and festivals, among them the so-called entrudo. And if you ask me, it was noisy, wet, and a bit wild. Entrudo was the carnival of colonial times, except it forgot the parade and organized music. Here, the fun involved throwing buckets of water, really dirty, flour, lemon, paint, and even other less noble substances at each other. Literally, urban warfare. And the most curious thing? This happened in broad daylight on the streets of colonial cities. Rich, poor, enslaved, and masters, everyone became a target and no one was safe. But as everything that arrives in Brazil gains that local flavor, the European entrudo was quickly transformed. The festival gained other influences from indigenous cultures with their rituals and body painting, and from the forcibly imported African peoples, who brought with them rhythms, drums, dances, and traditions full of resistance and spiritual expression. While the colonial elite attempted to organize European-style balls with Venetian masks and candlelit halls, the people in the streets invented another kind of celebration, freer, more passionate, more Brazilian. The first street groups and parades emerged with improvised instruments, social satire, and plenty of drumming. This was Brazil's cultural birth amidst the chaos. And it's worth remembering, Carnival at that time was still frowned upon by the authorities and the church. The festival was considered indecent, dangerous, and subversive. And indeed it was. But the people, as always, persisted. Because Carnival was the time when the poor could laugh at the rich, the enslaved could mock their masters, the marginalized could become protagonists, even if only for a few days. There, amidst the colonial chaos, the DNA of our carnival was already beginning to form: mixture, resistance, irony, music, and irreverence. It was as if Brazil were saying, with drumming and joy, "Here, the party is ours, and the rule is to have no rules." This celebration, born from the collision of cultures and popular creativity, was still far from organized parades and the glitter of the avenues, but it already carried the soul of what would become the greatest popular spectacle on the planet. And thus, under the sun, flower, drums, and satire, Brazilian Carnival was born, by the people and for the people.
Samba is born. Schools are born. If Carnival had already arrived in Brazil, with plenty of water, flour, and drumming, there was still something missing that made it unique. Something that only existed here. And that piece of the puzzle came in the rhythm, beat, and soul of samba, a sound born from the pain, joy, and faith of a people who sang even when they had nothing else. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Rio de Janeiro was already bustling. The city was growing, the population was increasing, and the working-class neighborhoods, especially the hills, were filling with working-class people, mostly black, from different regions, cultures, and religions. In this cultural melting pot, African drums mingled with marches, madinhas, choro, and instruments like the cavaquinho and tambourine. The result? A new, mischievous, captivating, and utterly Brazilian rhythm: samba. But samba wasn't born accepted. Quite the opposite. It was seen as the music of outcasts. Police harassment was routine, and anyone with a drum could be arrested for vagrancy. Still, the music endured, it grew, and conquered. And it was precisely there that the history of Carnival took a historic turn. In the Estacio de Sá neighborhood in the 1920s, a group of samba dancers began organizing samba as a parade, with wings, a rhythmic rhythm, and a theme. In other words, a story told through music, costumes, and dance. In 1928, the first officially recognized samba school emerged, Deixa Falar. The name, in fact, was already a message to the society that tried to silence this popular expression. These samba schools weren't schools in the traditional sense. They were in fact organized communities that represented a neighborhood, a culture, an entire people. Their costumes were constructed, samba themes were written, and rehearsals were held late into the night with sweat, collective effort, and a great deal of passion. Over time, other schools emerged: Mangueira, Portela, Salgueiro, Unidos da Tijuca, and thus the parades gained substance, beauty, and emotion, and a visual identity that blends luxury and folk art like no other festival in the world. The samba schools transformed Rio's carnival into a spectacle, but it wasn't just a catwalk spectacle, it was an act of cultural resistance, a stage where Black, poor, and marginalized people could tell their stories, honor their heroes, satirize the powerful, and assert their dignity before the country. And what began as a neighborhood parade became a national tradition. The stands grew, the sambadromes emerged, the TV cameras arrived, and the whole world began to watch Brazil in February. But at the heart of each parade, the same essence still beats: a story told in rhythm, sweat, and brilliance. Samba, born in the alleys and lanes, became a collective voice, and Carnival, its biggest stage.
São Paulo Carnival. If Rio de Janeiro is recognized worldwide as the birthplace of samba and grand parades, it's impossible to ignore the growth and power that São Paulo Carnival has achieved in recent decades. What was once seen as a more timid celebration today shines with its own intensity and surprises. Yes, the Anhembi Sambadrome has become the stage for true spectacles. São Paulo Samba schools invest heavily in creativity, technology, emotion, and themes that thrill from beginning to end. The percussion section of Mocidade Alegre, the historic themes of Vai Vai, the daring parades of Gaviões da Fiel. São Paulo doesn't mess around, and what's more, it doesn't copy Rio. It creates its own spectacle. What few remember is that São Paulo samba history is also ancient. It originated in the outskirts of the city, among workers, migrants from the northeast, and old-school samba dancers. It was samba de terreiro, samba de resistência, samba de quintal. And it was with this spirit that São Paulo's carnival grew, with grit. Today, São Paulo samba schools parade with the same brilliance as their Rio counterparts, with themes that explore Brazilian history, social struggles, myths, forgotten heroes, and of course, with plenty of critique and irreverence. And there's something truly beautiful about this. While the city outside races to the rhythm of the clock and traffic, the Sambadrome becomes an oasis of emotion, brilliance, and art. But São Paulo doesn't stop there. In recent years, the city has experienced a boom in street parties. From Vila Madalena to downtown, from the most traditional to the most alternative neighborhoods, these groups have taken over the city with creativity, diversity, and contagious joy. There are feminist groups, children's groups, nerd groups, country groups, groups with African percussion, and even groups that blend carnival with politics, philosophy, or memes. It's the face of São Paulo, plural, urban, fast-paced, and surprising. And amidst all this mix, what we see is this. São Paulo isn't just having carnival. It's reinventing carnival in its own way, with a concrete face, a drum heart, and a crowd soul.
The Trio Elétrico and Bahia Carnival. While samba was taking over Rio and transforming carnival into a parade, in northeastern Brazil, more precisely in the warm and musical city of Salvador, another revolution was about to happen. But here, carnival wouldn't be born in the hills, nor on the catwalks. It would emerge on top of a truck. In 1950, two Bahian musicians, Dodo and Osmar, decided to do something a little crazy. Hook up their electric instruments to an old 1929 Ford, affectionately nicknamed Fobica, and take to the streets playing for the people. That's how, unintentionally, the trio Electrico was born. But no one knew that this musical makeshift on wheels would become decades later the beating heart of Bahia Carnival. Unlike samba schools, which rehearse year-round for a timed parade full of rules, the trio Electrico is pure movement. It's improvisation, it's mass dancing, it's a crowd following the sound as if it were a tribal call. It's a tropical rave with axe at full volume. Little by little, other names joined this party on wheels. Moraias Moreira, Chiclete com Banana, Daniela Mercury, Ivete Sangalo, Bel Marquez, and the trio gained momentum. Today, these technological trucks drag hundreds of thousands of revelers, each one jumping to their own rhythm, with glitter on their foreheads and smiles on their faces under the scorching Bahia sun. But don't think it's just music and fun. The trio Electrico is also a symbol of inclusion. People don't need to buy tickets or sit in a box. The bloco is democratic. Whoever wants to keeps going. Whoever gets tired, stops. Whoever wants to jump, jumps. Whoever just wants to feel the vibe, does. It's a free, popular, horizontal carnival. And what's more, Bahia's carnival also gave Brazil and the world an entire musical genre, axe. A sound made for the body to resist, for the soul to let loose, and for the heart to beat along with the drum. And so, while in Rio, the art of the parade enchants the eyes with luxury and storytelling, in Salvador, Carnival conquers the senses with sweat, music, and energy. From samba to axe, from the favela to the truck, Brazil has invented two completely different but equally captivating carnivals. And all this only shows what we already know. Carnival doesn't have just one form. It reinvents itself, changes tone, rhythm, avenue, but never loses its essence. Collective joy, pulsating music, and the freedom to be who you are.
Carnival in Recife and Olinda. If samba reigns in Rio and axe music rules the rostrum in Bahia, in the heart of Pernambuco, it's a different story. And what a story! Recife and Olinda don't just celebrate Carnival, they embody the festival as an explosion of tradition, identity, and cultural resistance. Here, Carnival doesn't parade or roll on wheels, it goes up and down hills. Imagine waking up to the sound of Frevo orchestras tuning up in the middle of the street under the scorching northeastern sun with flags fluttering in the sky and a giant puppet beside you, smiling as if it were alive. In Olinda, Carnival begins before dawn and ends, well, maybe it never really ends. It's as if the entire city were a stage where every corner is an act and every person a character. And if there's one thing that defines Carnival there, it's Frevo, that frenetic, almost acrobatic rhythm that blends military marching with popular euphoria. Try dancing it and you'll understand. It's impossible to do it with a straight face. Frevo doesn't allow for sadness. It's music made for jumping, spinning, sweating, and laughing, all at the same time. But it's not just Olinda that shines. In Recife, the spotlight is on one of the largest carnival groups in the world, Galo da Madrugada. That's right, the group draws more than 2 million people through the streets of the capital of Pernambuco in a colorful march of costumes, drums, whistles, and deafening joy. It's the largest in the world, according to the Guinness Book of Records, and let's face it, one of the most captivating too. And we can't forget the maracatus with their heavy drums and majestic costumes. They're not just there to cheer, they're an act of living memory. Maracatu carries the legacy of the kings and queens of Congo, of Afro-Brazilian traditions, and of Black resistance to colonization. Dancing maracatu keeps alive the history of a people who fought, and still fights, to exist with pride. The Carnival of Recife and Olinda smells of wet streets, tastes of couscous with colio cheese, and sounds of deep drums. It's ancestral, it's political, it's poetic. While many carnivals present themselves to the world as spectacles, Pernambuco's is a manifesto. There are no bleachers, no ropes, no distance between those who watch and those who experience it. You're inside Carnival, like it or not.
And when the giant puppets of Olinda pass by with their 4-meter heads bobbing through the crowd, something magical happens. It's as if past, present, and revelry merge into a single dance. Whether it's the stomping frevo, the maracatu that echoes like a drum of time, or the galo that wakes the city before the sun, Pernambuco's carnival is a cry for identity. And a reminder, Brazil doesn't have just one carnival, it has many, and they all have their own soul.
The global spectacle. Today, Brazilian Carnival is more than a party. It's an international symbol, a hallmark of Brazil on the planet's cultural map. A showcase where the entire world turns once a year to try to understand how a country with so many problems manages to transform 4 days into such an intense, vibrant, and living spectacle. Marquês de Sapucaí in Rio has become a global catwalk. It's there that samba schools shine in grandiose parades, where floats resemble spaceships and costumes resemble intergalactic superhero outfits. It's there that the samba enredo, rehearsed for an entire year, becomes a soundtrack to tell the story of a people, with social commentary, cultural tribute, and boundless creativity. Celebrities from all over the world come here year after year to be enchanted by the beauty, energy, and emotion. International networks broadcast the parades live. Photographers compete for the best angle, and Brazil, for a few days, finds itself in the spotlight, not because of tragedies, crises, or scandals, but because of what makes us unique, our ability to celebrate life, even in adversity. But the most beautiful thing is that despite all this fame, Carnival remains a celebration of the people. It still exists in the cries of Belo Horizonte's street parties, in the march of Olinda's giant puppets, in the energy of Bahia's trios, in the drumming of the suburbs, in the painted faces of children, in the improvisations of alleyways, in the music that comes from within, not from the score. Brazilian Carnival is great because it is made by millions of hands. Hands that sew costumes, that tune instruments, that glue sequins into the early hours. Hands that play, that dance, that lift the groups, that push floats, that draw posters, that hold the flag of joy, even when the rest of the year is difficult. And perhaps that's exactly why the whole world looks at us with such admiration during this time. Because Brazilian Carnival isn't just a party. It's resistance, it's memory, it's art, it's a collective soul in motion. So the next time you see a parade on TV or a bloco in your city, remember this. Behind every costume, every drumbeat, every sweaty smile, there are centuries of history, a blend of cultures, and a people who never gave up celebrating life. So tell me, which of these carnivals resonates most with you? The samba from Rio, the trio from Bahia, the frevo from Pernambuco, or that creative version you invent with your friends in your neighborhood? And if you enjoyed this journey through time and the rhythms of Carnival, leave a like, comment which carnival resonates most with you, share it with your friends, and of course, subscribe to the channel.